All right, it's Friday, April 17th, around noon. We're opening up side two of this album, and it's an angsty punk rockish song. I said yesterday my two favorite genres are funk and punk, so I ended side one with a funk song, and opening side two with a punk song that's very Rage Against the Machine, waltzy though. I don't know if there's any waltzy time signatures for Rage Against the Machine. I'm sure there are if I look into it. This song is called "The Poor Don't Get to Choose." It's a 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. Lots of influences that I'll talk about after I sing this. Let me get through the melodies first, and then I'll do my whatever 20-minute talk about where my head is with the lyrics and influences and stuff I've been listening to lately. So 1 2 3. I want some kind of a intro to this to lead into the fast-paced, aggressive nature. I feel like I need some kind of intro to get to that point. So maybe kind of like that Coheed song that goes na 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 na. It starts out with like a peaceful acoustic melody. So I'd be going for something like that. I don't have that composed because I don't have any instruments, but I'll just kind of think in my head of how it goes. Some kind of ambient intro to what the song becomes. And it's not a long one, it'll only be for like 10, 20 seconds. I don't feel like this song should just burst right into the aggressive nature. It should take some time to develop and kind of shock people because so far the music on this album has been that Jack White type of blues, which is aggressive, but not very overly hardcore aggression. Because I picture Minor Threat, I picture stuff like that off the punk band off, Tom Morello type of guitar stuff. And let me get into how the song goes, and then I'll talk more about inspirations and stuff like that. Dun, 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 dun. Money. Dun, 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 dun. Like napalm. Dun, 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 dun. Like a safe word. Dun, 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 dun. Like a red eye. Dun, 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 dun. Through a dead zone. Dun, 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 dun. With souls on loan. Dun, 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 dun. And cement blocks. Dun, 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 dun. For the trip home, dun, 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 the poor, dun, 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 don't get, dun, 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 to choose, dun, 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 3 1, the poor, dun, 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 1 2 3 1, don't get, dun, 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 to choose. So it's kind of a sing along there. Like, the poor dun 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 don't get dun 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 to choose. I like the descending chord arrangement there. Dun 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 dun, and it goes right back into the verse melody. Money dun 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 like the haze dun 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 like a sunburn dun 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 the photo finish dun 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 tax believers dun 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 print the hunger dun 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 fight the ego dun 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 for the time served dun 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 the poor dun 1 2 3 1 2 don't get dun 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 to choose dun 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 the poor dun 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 don't get dun 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 to choose dun 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 from that, I pictured a Tom Morello part here. After you do the chorus the second time, I just figure, I picture, or I hear in my head that Tom Morello type of guitar solo that's kind of trippy and kind of unexpected. And I'm going to include maybe a Jayhawk solo too, which I probably spoke about before, and maybe something else that's kind of a weird solo that maybe even Nirvana, because they have some weird grungy ones that kind of fit that mood I'm going for. But Tom Morello has that style that I've talked about already. And it kind of sounds like a turntable at times, and he just does these weird scratches and stuff like that. And that's what I'm going for. I like that type of weird type of guitar solo to take things to another dimension of weirdness. It's not so much grunge, it's not so much punk or hardcore. Not that hardcore really has a lot of solos in it. And during that, you would just kind of continue with the aggressive nature, and all of that could be done pretty quickly, 30 seconds to a minute of a solo, because this is a hardcore song that's already probably going to be around 4 minutes, and it's not a typical hardcore song in that manner. It's not like a 2 minute song. That leads to like a Henry Rollins type of spoken word that is pretty much the outro or bridge. You could bridge this back to the chorus if that's how it's going to go. But it's a Henry Rollins type of spoken word. Money as judge, empty as sin. Breathe in the curse. Live through another. Rival the cross. Exhale the conundrum. Fool for the cause. Or fuel for the kingdom. You could scream some of these lines. I'm doing it in the tempo that I'm selecting. I like the tempo of this song because even though I picture it as a hardcore song because of the chorus mostly, the poor don't get to choose. I picture like a hardcore band on stage singing that part and the audience kind of going nuts in the crowd. And like, it's a very aggressive chorus at least. And yeah, I would say after that spoken word part, which is influenced by kind of the Henry Rollins type of spoken word or other kind of spoken word punk stuff that I can't really think about right now. But that's the one I had in my head, that type of, and it's kind of a slow paced section. It's 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3. It's very hypnotic, which is what I like about it. It puts you kind of like in a trance. And I'm a drone guy. I say it like every recording now. I like the drone. And this adds to that appreciation of drone rock, drone music, whatever you want to call it. So that's the song. It opens side two with a very punky type of political charge, I guess. And yeah, it fits this album. Do I hear like a Jack White influence on this? Maybe in a way, but I don't know Jack White stuff if he ever kind of fucked around with punk rock, hardcore music. I don't really know if he likes that type of music, but he probably dips his toes into all kinds of loud guitar stuff. And that, so I did include him as an influence again because I feel like that is leading the charge of this entire album for some reason. But it's an angsty waltz. It's a waltz. 1 2 3, 1 2 dun, dun, dun. Very, very simple and hypnotic. It doesn't change at all throughout the entire song. Like you could have the guitar solo section a little bit different, and other sections might be a little bit different, but it's basically just the same. Dun, 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 dun. The poor don't get to choose. And I'm even speeding that up just to sing it again. But yeah, I hear the minor threat. Specifically, I hear the minor threat. Can't keep up, can't keep up. I'm out of touch with the world. I'm out of touch. I can't keep up, I can't keep up, I can't keep up. I'm out of touch with the world. That song kind of plays into this entire album. The messaging of that song, even though it's from like the 80s, right? And let me consult Google on that one. When did Minor Threat? Because I feel like I want to get that. Because it relates to this time period, because everything's in a cycle. When did Minor Threat write Can't Keep Up? It has to be in the late 80s, right? Or I Can't Keep Up, or mid 80s. That might be their most well-known song. Can't Keep Up was in 1983. All right. So yeah, April 1983 was released through Dischord Records. A 5-piece lineup. I didn't know they were a 5-piece either. So I don't know much about that period of hardcore music, which I said before. I'm not trying to be a poser, man. I just never really connected with Minor Threat too much. But that song is very catchy. I like that melody a lot. So I'll share that song. What's that song about? I don't know. Can't keep up. Can't keep up. It's kind of like that whole, you feel like a cog in the machine that's kind of expired. Dave Rawlings' Machine had an album called Nashville Obsolete. Yeah, not that that album's connecting to this, but the word obsolete just came to my head because you feel like that sometimes. I was at a job for 11 years and I got fired for no reason. The people that I worked for couldn't even give me a reason why I got fired after 10, 11 years of being with the same company. Did I feel like that? I think I was more just like angsty and angry that I couldn't even get a reason, an actual legitimate reason why I got fired. That's probably a different word than obsolete, but there is a feeling of that as well as I went along for the last, because this happened in 2021. It's a long 5 years ago, but it's still reverberating today. As I'm looking for a job right now, I get the same bullshit a lot of time. A lot of the times, I get a lot of the similar bullshit from 5 years ago. And it's real disheartening because I'm a very hardworking person. I just don't like people's bullshit. I never minded working hard. It's who you're working for. If you want it, I'm stealing another lyric from Gillian Welch. But that's the feeling you get a lot of times, depending on the company you work for. And maybe that's a definite part of this entire album. Wrath of the Bull means wrath of the bullshit. You throw bullshit at people for so long, eventually it's going to be useless. You can't keep doing the same bullshit to people. It just doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. This kind of plays into other things I'll be talking about in relation to this song specifically. But the obsolete, it is a fitting word for something like this. You can't keep up, can't keep up with the world. I don't know. You either feel like you're priced out or you don't have any opportunity. You don't have a say in anything in terms of your local government or federal government. Well, definitely not federally. And I feel like that's a big theme in this song because of that chorus. The poor don't get to choose. Like, it's a very simple statement, but it can mean a lot of different things for different people's experiences. And this isn't an American thing, because there's people who would move to America who will tell you stories about how other governments do shit and they keep people down for whatever reason. It happens here in America too, Everything's in different levels of social ladders and all that shit. Can't keep up with the world. I'm going back to that song again. I just wanted to peruse. Can't keep up. Can't keep up. I just wanted to peruse the lyrics to see if there's anything connected to how I approach this song. And because I said I'm not a minor threat. Um, and any imagining, I'm not a minor threat aficionado. I don't know their music at all. And I think the lyrics for Out of Step are like very minimal. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't fuck. At least I can fucking think. That's pretty good. That's the only verse. I can't keep up, I can't keep up, out of step with the world. Yeah, I like the general sentiment of how simple the lyrics are. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't fuck. At least I can fucking think. I like that. That's kind of my life. That's why I said that I'm approaching not just this album, but a lot of my music from that straight edge approach. Everything I've written since 2020 has been completely sober minded in terms of, well, doing it myself. And maybe I say I do all these things myself, but the creative process is because of bands like Minor Threat and other bands that went before and put these thoughts into my head. So yeah, I work alone. I never collaborate with other people, but a lot of times I feel like I'm also kind of being led to a direction when I write a song like this. It's definitely coming from the Minor Threat type of appeal. And I like that straight edge approach. I don't drink, I don't smoke. I'm sober minded. I try to keep an open mind and I don't get swayed by people's bullshit and propaganda, which is very difficult to do just as much today as it was in the 80s. The 80s was a different type of propaganda, war on drugs and all that shit, Reaganomics and all that shit. It's a different world today completely, but you could see the similarities. And I'm not the most intelligent person to talk about that stuff, but I also listed the band Off because they have a very aggressive approach to punk rock, hardcore, and crazy instrumentation, and yeah, really good musicianship, like some of the best. And even on that Nico Case video I shared yesterday, she mentioned one of their albums. So I thought that was pretty cool that they have a pretty wide following. They got pretty big, so good for them. I hope they keep making music if they're not doing it anymore. I already talked Henry Rollins. I'm also not very knowledgeable about Black Flag and Henry Rollins. Um, I also added the Aesthetics because that's a part of the Fugazi family. Uh, I don't really know them besides that one album they put out maybe 2 years ago. And I listed The Comet is Coming. They're like a very aggressive horn band. I don't really know how else to term them. I guess they're jazz, but The Comet is Coming is a band I really got into. Where are they from? London-based band. Jazz, electronica, funk, and psychedelic. Yeah, they're kind of all over the place. I didn't want to just call them a jazz band because they're definitely out there. Check them out if you like that type of appeal. It's aggressive. Watch I'll share their Tiny Desk because I thought that was the best Tiny Desk concert I ever saw. Uh, they did a Tiny Desk concert, maybe, I don't know what year it was, but it was really amazing. That will get you to either hate them or love them right there because that got me addicted to their music when I saw them perform a couple songs live. Yeah, I'll find a Tom Morello, maybe one of his solo projects if he has some crazy soloing, or I don't really know his other stuff that well. I think the Night Watchman is kind of acoustic, but maybe he's got something that I could select to share with this song. The rest of my influences were also Lydia Lunch I listed because I felt like this is becoming another adventure in only masculine voices. And she's pretty cool in terms of that no wave scene. Her one album, I don't think it's on Spotify. What's it called? I want to give it credit because it was a love, instant love. As soon as I heard it, it was like an instant classic album. And I put it on my list of favorite albums over my lifetime. It's just called 13.13, yeah. It's on Bandcamp if you want to check it out. I don't think it's on Spotify. But yeah, it's really good. 1982. It's that no wave gothic. Maybe it's kind of like that Susie Sue, Juju album. I like that one a lot. So it is accessible. It has cool melodies and good production. Um, it looks like it was kind of recorded in California and New York in 1981. And there's also one track or two tracks that were live, one from New Orleans and one from New York, 1981. Yeah, so it's really good. Check it out. Lydia Lunch, 13.13. I'll share a song from Bandcamp since I don't think it's on Spotify. I think I shared stuff from her before, but that's why I remember going on Spotify and they didn't have anything really too much from her. I also listed the Jayhawks and Nirvana because I wanted to find I just added those right now because I wanted to find a solo that kind of fit what I'm going for. The other influence to this song and we're kind of just spoken word stuff that no, not spoken word, like George Carlin comedy, Dick Gregory, some of his experiences in life, and someone I just found. His name is Satish Kumar, and I'll share the podcast. It was on the Graham Hancock podcast. Satish Kumar, I believe he's like a Jain monk, if I'm saying that correctly. I just heard of him last night because I was listening to some of it last night when I went to sleep. And then when I woke up this morning, I listened to the rest of it because it was like a 3 hour podcast. Let me see. Satish Kumar is an Indian British peace pilgrim. That's a cool thing to put on your resume. His claim to fame, which he talks about in the podcast, was he walked 8,000 miles in the 60s to promote nuclear disarmament. So he went through India, Pakistan, Iran. He went through, I believe, Russia and Japan, and I think he came to America too. Yeah. He wanted to go to the major capitals in the world, which I guess he selected Moscow, Paris, London, and Washington, D.C. So he's got a lot of books on Amazon, which hopefully I can read at some point. Because I have a list on Amazon called cool stuff. So whenever I hear about a book, I just add it to that. And eventually, at some point, when I'm 100 years old, I'll get to read these things. So that's pretty cool. It was a 2 year peace walk, 1962 to 1964. When he was talking about that, I thought of the Dick Gregory Run for Hunger, which I heard about a couple months ago. He did that, I believe, also in the 60s. No, I'm wrong. He did this in 76. He ran 3,200 miles across the United States. This is Dick Gregory. And some of it was done with Muhammad Ali, I believe. And it took him, I don't know how long, maybe a year. I don't know. I forget how long it took him, but there's a book that either was written about it to document that experience. I thought it was pretty cool. He covered 3,000 miles, spanning 11 states, lasting 1,000 hours, and consisting of 7 million steps. I don't know how they kept track of that. Did they have pedometers back then? I used to do that. Whenever I would go for walks, I used to have one of those on my phone, but then I was like, this is so stupid. So I kind of deleted that shit. But yeah, there's a children's book about it too. And I think there's another book um, kind of documenting that experience because that's pretty crazy, man. And I'll share something about that. Yeah, but that was because I was listening to the Satish Kumar story, and I was like, oh, that's kind of like what Dick Gregory did. Satish Kumar went through some of the more intense experiences that, like, he didn't bring any money with him. That's why he calls himself a pilgrim, I guess. He kept mentioning that he's a pilgrim, even if Pakistan and India are kind of like enemies sometimes, and they war a lot. He still went to Pakistan with no money because he believed the people would still give him that hospitality and stuff. So it's an interesting podcast. You know, you can be kind of cynical about some of this stuff too. As if an ordinary person just goes out and just walks across the country, would they be able to survive? I couldn't even survive 2 nights. I was homeless for 2 nights. I couldn't even survive that. I had to drink sprinkler water, eat leaves, and what else? I was lucky to find gallons of water in the park nearby. But yeah, I couldn't even make it 2 fucking nights. So I don't know, man. I don't know how people survive as a pilgrim. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I'm not a monk. I don't know how people interact in that spiritual type of paradigm or whatever you want to call it. But it's worth a listen, even if you think it's stupid. I'm not that cynical. I think it's a pretty cool thing. And he was even talking about somebody close to him was like, man, you're going to die. As soon as you get to Pakistan, they'll know you're an Indian, you're from India, you're a Hindu, and they're going to, lock you up or not feed you. And he was like, well, if I die, it's a good way to die because I'm doing it for peace and all this stuff. And he goes into philosophies on life and death, how you shouldn't be afraid of death and all this stuff. And it's a lot of stuff I agree with that plays into this song. It was almost like I wrote this song. I wrote these lyrics yesterday mostly, but I had the chorus in mind about a week ago maybe. And all these words and themes of this song connected to what he was saying like so closely, and stuff that I talk about identity politics. He says specifically, don't look at me as an Indian, or don't look at yourself by your nationality as a Japanese person. And I don't know when he says this specifically, but it's in the podcast when he's being interviewed. He's like, that's not your first identity. You're a human being. Is being a human being, being a human being. Identifying yourself as a human being should be your primary classification, that you're just a human being. Doesn't matter where you come from, what religion you are, and all that other secondary identifiers. All that stuff is secondary. And yeah, that's a lot of stuff I agree with, that type of approach to life. But people don't live like that. People put not only try to get what your identity is and try to box you in, they try to put fake identities on you, which I've never had to deal with until later in life, because people become really fucking ignorant and really fucking aggressive with identity politics. And it's an absurd way to approach anything in society. In my opinion, it's just really backwards. And I talked about that in the first songs. It was kind of interesting to hear him say the same thing. He's coming from it in a more spiritual approach because he was a monk. I don't know if he's still a monk, but yeah, he was kind of a pilgrim like that, just walking to protest nuclear weapons and stuff like that, which it's still relevant today. But yeah, it's worth a listen. I wanted to mention him because I listened to that entire like 3 hour interview, and everything he was saying almost instantly connected with me as I prepared to talk about this song today. So it's cool how things happen like that. This happened to me when I was writing my book. I have an album called Perceptions, kind of related to identity politics, how people perceive things that aren't there because they have some bullshit motivations or disingenuous approach to identifying somebody because of some political corruption and stuff like that. And I wrote an album called Perceptions, kind of about that. And in my book, I wrote about some of the inspirations, and I watched an interview with this Buddhist monk, and he goes into a lot of these similar philosophical views on what makes a person, your consciousness, your morality, and all that stuff, and people's perceptions, how it could be blinding. And I agree with all that stuff. Like, it's hard not to give in to stereotyping because that's a form of perception. It's hard not to. You judge the book by the cover because it's like a natural human instinct almost. But if you continue to just live by that very ignorant outlook on things, whatever the news tells me, it must be true. Whatever social media is putting in my eyeballs must be the truth. And it's hard not to be like that because you want to trust these institutions. Well, maybe not so much Twitter and Facebook. I think it's been proven that they're so full of shit. But you want to be able to trust at least independent journalism, right? Like, or cable news. Like, I watched that growing up, and I was like, oh, I guess this is all truth. And then it just gets degraded and degraded over time as you get older and more cynical. But again, there's a reason for that because a lot of it is propaganda, not just America, whatever country you live in. A lot of it has a agenda that might not suit your own agenda as an individual. It might not suit your morality agenda, but it's still in front of your face because that's what the state wants to promote, and it gets through the gatekeepers. Now we're getting more into media. What kind of music is promoted? What kind of movies are going to be promoted? Documentaries? What do you want to be in the public mind meld that people have conversations about? That's all a part of the bias of the media. It's not so much how they approach a topic. It's what topic they even choose to put out there as a headline. So it's weird. Like, I did go to school and I studied journalism back in the early 2000s, and they talked about a lot of the classes I took. A lot of the teachers talked about stuff like this, and I forget even the words now. Media conglomerates, synergy, like how there's so few talking heads in terms of media giants, almost like banks that are too big to fail. The way the news is presented is from such a corporate, narrowly corporate, because it's always going to be funded by commercial interests, but I think it becomes more narrow and narrow, and people just lose faith in it completely. Because the news, yeah, it is another form of tribalism in a way. Which cable news channel do you watch in your home? It becomes a form of tribalism, just like political parties and stuff like that. Just like social media, everything becomes, as Satish Kumar was talking in his podcast, everything becomes this dichotomy. Everything becomes bipolar. You're either this or that. You're either this or that. You can't have a conversation with gray areas. Everything, if you watch cable news, very rarely do people get into the subtlety of an argument or a more kind of the way podcasts do it a lot of times. And I'm not saying podcasts are completely innocent of spreading an agenda or propaganda, but when you can sit down with someone for 3 hours, like the Satish Kumar, you can experience every side of the argument. You can have a back and forth that isn't sponsored by GE or Boeing or military contractors. You could have a 3 hour conversation, debate. It doesn't have to be a debate, but just a way to approach any topic without the parameters of the corporate agenda. You know, it doesn't have to be about war. It could be about anything. It could be about food insecurity, like he was talking about, or what Dick Gregory went out walking for. It could be about any topic. It doesn't have to be the big foreign conflict that always takes precedent because, you know, war, what's more gripping than a war? Really nothing. But I was saying yesterday, it's always a war. Everything's always in conflict. The world's always in chaos. And people just try to get better with every generation, but I don't know if it's really getting to that point. And I'm not the right person to judge it. I don't study this shit. I've never been outside the country besides going to Italy for like a couple weeks. I don't travel the fucking world like that to see how other people exist in time. And yeah, so I'm not the right person to speak on this shit. People like Satish Kumar, yeah, they can present that and be legitimate because the dude walked 9,000 miles or whatever it was. He just walks around without money, without food, and whatever he was doing, that's pretty amazing. He did tell a story though. Russia was like giving him problems. He went to like one of the embassies, and it was the Soviet Union back then, wasn't going to let him in. And then he was saying, well, it's not going to look very good. We're Indian pilgrims trying to spread a message of peace. So it's a little bit different because then what? Every homeless person could just be considered a pilgrim, right? I don't know, man. I get very cynical about these things. Um, it's or a vagrant. Like, what's the difference between the hippies or the vagrants or a pilgrim? Like, it's all semantics and how people perceive it. Again, you go back to perceptions of things. So yeah, that was a really good podcast. I think it's going to get me back into reading because I said I was going to read a book, and maybe I just need to finish the rest of this album first, and I could really clear my head and just read. Whether it's trying to get back into the Spanish learning, which I haven't done in probably 2 weeks. But these albums just came out of nowhere. The last one and this one, especially, the Humble Trip, right? See, I don't even remember what it's called now because they're coming out so quickly. What was it called? It was the Humble Trip, right? It was the Humble Trip, and then the Punk album I did. And then the last one was the Carole King one, Some Jump from Planes. So it's just been nonstop right now, writing stuff. And maybe I'm not reading for a certain reason because I don't want to get my signals mixed up. But what was it? Yeah, I listened to Joe Rogan yesterday too. He had David Cross on, who I like his style of comedy. Um, the Misadventures of Todd Margaret or whatever it's called. That was one of my favorite shows. I could watch that over and over again. So, and he was talking about diminishing returns, he was talking about a sitcom writing team or any kind of inspiration. I think that's what he was talking about. Eventually, you'll have diminishing returns creatively. And I think that's where I'm headed. After I write this album, this would be the 20th album I've written since July or August of last summer. And I feel like I'm running out of stuff to write about or areas to explore that isn't so, I don't want to say morose because I don't think this song is morose. It's just dealing with historical realities of how poor people are vulnerable to being exploited, whether through food insecurity or war or other social ills that they can't really defend themselves against. And I'm not talking about America specifically. Other countries experience actual famines and civil war and crazy shit, and poor people are always the one because they don't have the ability to really withstand that phenomenon. Just like the Great Depression, I guess. Some people could survive that shit, some people couldn't, if you want to speak about America. But yeah, I wouldn't really say this song specifically or this album is a morose album. But if I'm writing a punk song, yeah, it's going to be about a lot of the stuff that I've been exposed to through punk music. So am I a parrot? Yeah, in a way, I'm a parrot, definitely. I'm not denying that because I've never walked across four continents like this Satish Kumar guy to see how people are abused and they have to go through real trauma. They don't have running water, they don't have food. Whether you're like a refugee or whatever, like there's crazy shit that I've never experienced. But I think that's why people like Satish Kumar, if I'm saying, hopefully I'm saying his name right, Satish, and Dick Gregory, that's why they do stuff like that. And yeah, I don't think I have the wherewithal to do something like that in my life. Like, I don't think I have that because people like that had a following. They had a commercial appeal. Dick Gregory was kind of big, not just African American community. Like a lot of people knew of him, so he could draw attention to an issue like that. And he had Muhammad Ali running with him in certain parts of the journey or whatever, which I didn't know until I heard about it today. So yeah, that's pretty cool to bring that type of attention to an issue like hunger, food insecurity is pretty. It's a noble thing to do. And I spoke about Dick Gregory before. He was one of the reasons I went vegan after I read one of his books, which is kind of funny but kind of true as well. So yeah, he's been a pivotal person. That's why I wanted to list him again. Um, the last person was George Carlin. I think George Carlin has a similar approach to a lot of these issues, and he'll approach it more satirically through his specials, his stand-up specials. But he talks about these issues when he talks about getting rid of golf courses and just using that land for homeless people. Like he paints these pictures that are very genius, in my opinion, at least. He paints these pictures of how society's fucked up, whether it was in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or today. It's still the same human paradigm. In a lot of ways, it's still the same human condition, that the same DNA from our ancestors 1,000 years ago. Um, Cultural superiority, racial superiority, and all these tribal modes that people get trapped inside. And it's not just one, anyone can fall into that. It doesn't matter where you come from, what religion you are, your life will experience moments like that. And I guess now it's more the technology side of things. Yesterday was a big podcast day. I also listened to, I'm going to say his name wrong. After I listened to the David Cross one, because they talked about technology and artificial intelligence a little, and symbiotic relationship between man and machine, and all that crazy Twilight Zone stuff. There is a physicist from Japan. Man, yeah, okay. I'll probably still say his name wrong, but Michio Kaku, I guess his name is. So he was on Joe Rogan too, and he was talking about the same stuff about how, yeah, this is a part of science. Whenever I speak of scientific stuff, I come off sounding really dumb because I don't know the terminology. Just go listen to him. If you want to learn about this, the quantum computing, basically, and where that's going to lead, which I still don't understand, just go listen to that guy. I'll link his podcast as well because it was pretty good, and he goes into that about how will technology affect human evolution in terms of how we treat other people, how we view other people, how we perceive each other. All that stuff is very, it could go north or south depending on how quantum computing can help society. When I was listening to his stuff, and I'm not going to try to repeat anything he talked about for real, it's really, when it comes to physics and quantum physics, whatever the hell it's called, don't listen. I'm not even going to try to speak on it because it's too complicated, man. String theory and all that stuff. I can understand the theory of it, but I can't grasp it as well as other people do. Multi dimensions and all that stuff. Yeah, if you watch Rick and Morty, you could understand what parallel dimensions are, that there's a million versions of yourself in different universes and that type of string theory. Based on every decision you make, there's a different wormhole or whatever created. So it gets real crazy at that point. I understand those concepts, but I don't grasp it. Just like I don't grasp how could a God always exist. When I was a kid in Catholic school, they would say God wasn't born, he was always there. But how could something always be? Like it's one of those concepts you can't comprehend. How could something always exist without being birthed? Where did the universe come from? The Big Bang, but where did the particles from the Big Bang come from? Where did consciousness, how did that evolve? Something has to start. There has to be an origin, right? For God or anything. Or is it just because we don't understand time? We think time is linear, but it's really not. It's circular or something. But how could something not have an origin? That's beyond human comprehension because it's impossible to think like that. During that podcast, he kept mentioning the difference between animals and human beings is that human beings can have a sense of tomorrow and the future or the past, and animals don't really think in those terms of tomorrow and world creation. They don't really think. They're just survival mode. But at some one point, human beings were like that too. We were just surviving day to day. But just go listen to that. I'm not going to try to talk poetically about the stuff I listened to yesterday because it's too complicated, man. I couldn't even do high school physics. It was too complicated for me. I'm not a math and science guy in terms of the actual architecture and the actual engineering. Like I don't know if that part of my brain exists to do complicated calculations like that. But the creative side of my brain, yeah, it goes on kind of overload. But there's a creativity to science. Everything he was talking about sounded like science fiction. Not everything, but a lot of it. Because you're just theorizing where technology will lead humanity. It's all a theory. Nobody really can know for sure. Just like people didn't know, and I'm stealing this from the conversation yesterday, people didn't know what transmitters were going to do when it came out, and the way information would change, information technology in terms of radio, television, internet, how that would shape the future. Because it's hard to think of the world before the internet. It really, really is. I have to put myself as, like a 10-year-old in 1990 or whatever I was, 9 or 10, before the internet invaded the suburbs and the world. It's very hard to go back in time before cell phones, before the internet. and to think of how people lived back then. It's not that long ago. It's only 30 years, but it seems like it's been 100 generations, in terms of the evolution of technology. And this was nothing new. There's a term for that, the rate of technological expansion. So, yeah, it isn't anything new that I'm talking about, but it's connected to what I'm talking about today. Just in terms of opportunity, in terms of the internet can be a tool for developing nations or communities that are struggling and falling apart to find some new path or to learn skills to survive. Information technology. And that's already been, I'm sure, implemented in a lot of ways, not just in poor communities, but all around. So, yeah, it plays a part in the message of this song, I think. Back to the music, because I'm kind of going off on way different tangents right now. I still feel that it's a good way to introduce the second side of this album in an angsty punk, hypnotic type of fashion. Maybe it's more no wave than a more hardcore approach. I don't know. But something was keeping me from, because I wanted to make the fourth song, A King to Tease. I wanted to make that like a similar time signature, the 1 2 3 1 2 3, maybe more slow tempo. And I decided against that yesterday. And then I was like, it's probably because this song has that waltzy appeal that it wouldn't really work if it was back to back. So I like how the music goes, at least. And it's a waltz, but it's kind of like that hypnotic type of psychedelic waltz that I would kind of go for in terms of production, because it doesn't have a lot of changes, if any. The dun 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 dun. So it's a very anxious song in terms of the musicality. It's very anxious. Dun 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 dun. Money. Dun 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 dun. Like napalm. Dun dun dun. Like a safe word. So I like how the music also plays into the theme of this. And I guess that's all I can really talk about. I'm going a little bit longer today than I usually do. It's probably over close to an hour. So what else could I really say about this one? I don't know. The lyrics I do enjoy. In terms of visual arts, I'm kind of taking a different approach to things right now. I'm still making my doodles, but I'm just adding like whatever phrases come to my head. And the first one I made, or one of the first ones, what was it? I was kind of thinking in terms of a formula, like A equals B, B equals C, therefore A equals C. Those are like old SAT questions. And the first doodle I came up with for this, I have 6 so far. I'll try to get 20, because I always try to get 20 doodles whenever I do one of my projects. So the one I came up with first was time is money, money is evil, time is evil. Like one of those types of correlations, yeah. Time is money, money is evil, therefore time is evil. That's the first thing that just sprouted from my head spontaneously. So that's my new approach to making 20 doodles that really don't have to make sense, but it just has containing phrases that just pop in my head. And then I'm going to try to maybe even put them together as a big collage or just handle them separately. I don't know yet. But I thought that was a good beginning jumping off point for a project like that. Time is money, money is evil, therefore time is evil. And it doesn't really mean anything. I don't think I really figured out any kind of universal secret. But I just liked how it came to correlate like that. Because, yeah, how you handle your time on this planet is very important. Whether you're trying to make billions of dollars, you could still be doing good things. Or if you're Satish Kumar walking with no money to protest nuclear missiles. And yeah, either path you take with the time you have on this planet could be meaningful. It doesn't mean because if your goal in life is to make billions of dollars, it doesn't mean, to me at least, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. You're just very driven, and maybe you want to leave a mark on how human society evolves. And well, the way to do that, if you want to have an influence, you kind of have to have money in this day and age of human civilization. People with money usually have influence, not just on the country they live in, but throughout the world as a multinational type of force, because corporations have that, for better or worse. Religions are the same thing. I said religions can be looked at as corporations with legal teams, HR teams, PR campaigns, and whatever else. Modern day religions, organized religions, are very much corporations, and they handle things very similarly in how they get their messaging across. So yeah, everything is just new tools of how to approach old traditional modes of philosophical thought and human evolution. In terms of more, I say human evolution, it sounds more like a biology thing, but more of a societal evolution is probably a better term of how we organize the idea of what it means to be human, I guess, and how we classify things. Still, politically, I think is a backwards approach when you identify people by education status, by race, by creed, by marital status, by sexuality, by I don't know, family line, bloodline. I don't know. There's so many different ways that people are classified and put into boxes. Your employment, your title in your job, your promotional outlook. I don't know, man. There's so many different ways that I'm forgetting so many probably. But this is going back to the George Carlin influence on this, and I probably even shared it before, but I'll try to find something from George Carlin because his type of comedic way of approaching the human condition was in my head as I was going about this song yesterday. The music came to me right away, but the lyrics and the message, because I don't want to seem like I'm disingenuous. Like, oh, let's write a punk song. What can I be angry about? Poor people. Yeah, they're angry. I don't want it to come off like that. Yeah, poor people are good, rich people are bad. It's not a dichotomy like that. There's poor people who are assholes. There's poor people who are happy being poor. There's rich people that are evil fucking people. There's rich people who are great people doing great humanitarian stuff. It's an individual by individual thing. You really have to judge it like that. And it gets harder and harder to do so when identity politics boxes people in and boxes people in to a claustrophobic degree. And sometimes it's not even the person wanting to be a part of that. They're forced into that equation because those political forces don't give a fuck. They think their message is the gospel and everyone must hear it. So any approach like that, and the Satish Kumar podcast goes into that, if you have to lead by force, you're trying to force feed people any philosophy, force feed democracy, you're force feeding feminism, force feeding Catholicism, force feeding atheism, force feeding communism, force feeding identity politics. It doesn't work. You can't win people over by doing stuff like that. And yeah, if you have to approach your life philosophy through force and abuse and trauma, well, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, what the fuck am I doing? And I think that's where I'm going with a lot of the messaging in this, probably throughout this entire album, because it is about bullshit. And a lot of bullshit is masked as a genuine approach to make the human experience more comfortable in that Brave New World approach, where everyone's just comatose and drugged up, watching daytime television and forgetting about, I don't know, the most. And what do I even mean when I say this? What does that mean? The most organic, natural human attributes. What do I even mean by that? I don't know. Maybe that's the scariest thing. Like, I really don't know what that means. Lately, I don't even leave to go outside. I used to walk outside and go to the library, but now it's just like I'm just trying to accomplish this stuff. I still want to move across the country, and that's really where my head's at in terms of forming a more independent vision of my future, because I'm still a human. I can think about my future in terms of the goals that I'm setting out for myself. So yeah, I'm trying to do that. But lately I've been hermit like, just trying to produce as much art, as many albums as I can. And there are other stuff I plan to do, and I'll end on this because I'm talking way too much. The two other goals that I was having kind of in the back of my head was to do my audiobook again, which I probably talked about, which I'm not looking forward to, and writing my new book, which I'll start doing. Those are like year-long projects. The audiobook would be just me reading my book chapter by chapter, little by little, and trying to get better at it. Because what I'm doing now, I feel pretty comfortable. Like, I feel like, because I listen to these, and I feel like I'm coming across as my authentic self, that I'm not just parroting, I guess that's the word, parroting other people. Because I don't want to be a parrot for any political party. I don't want to be a parrot for any religion. I just want to speak openly and freely about any topic. I've been like that for a long time, not just the recent phenomenon. And yeah, I feel like I can do that when I speak freely like this, when I don't have a script or I'm not reading from a book. But it's more difficult when you have to actually recite lines and make it believable and enjoyable to listen to. It's very difficult. But those are the two of my major goals, depending on how things go. Because yeah, I'm not going to make a move to Arizona or California or New Mexico or wherever unless I have a steady job that I can really be sure that it's not going to disappear like it did in the past. So that's where I'm at. Tomorrow, just to give you a preview, it's probably less of a dramatic song. It's more of another. I would say that tomorrow's song is titled Fuck You, I've Been Working for Free. And it's more in line with the first song on this album. More of a satirical George Carlin type of outlook. Because it's basically everything I'm talking about. Fuck you, I've been working for free. That'll probably be worked into the chorus of the song. It sounds like a more angsty song, but I hear it more as a bluesy approach. Southern blues style, going back to Jack White and Black Crowes, which I've really leaned on throughout this whole process so far. So that's tomorrow's song. I kind of have some melodies arranged at the moment, but I'll go through it later and see what I can develop. Kind of what I did yesterday as well with this song. After that, there's two more songs to go, which I kind of have bits and pieces already finished, but not really. The last album came a little easier than this one, to be honest. I feel like I'm thinking too hard about this one. I want it to be like perfect in the moment, the last one just came out more free flowing. To be really honest, it was easier. I had certain people in mind, like Carole King, and I could just develop those melodies easier in my head. These, I don't know, I don't want it to be all over the place. I still want this to be a unified type of experience in terms of the music and the messaging, I guess, because the concept is Wrath of the Bull, Wrath of the Bullshit. I just think it sounded cooler, Wrath of the Bull. Like, I'm not trying to censor myself. I'm cursing plenty of times throughout this album. But Wrath of the Bull just sounded better. It sounded more poetic. But that's it for now. Um, I think I've mentioned everyone and everything I wanted to talk about. Go check out the people I mentioned, Satish Kumar, and I'll link that. I'll link the Dick Gregory and the Michio Kaku, or hopefully apologies if I said your name wrong, and the other musical inspirations as well. I'll link those. But that's all for now.